And then, okay, we're live now. Recording.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hubert, can you read the screen for us? Do we have attendees that have joined us?
So, Ellen, we are seeing your other screen. Do you, the PowerPoint is not shared yet? The PowerPoint is not showing.
Are you ready for me to kick off?
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and welcome. We have
Okay. Well, good morning,
for you, the
everyone.
mayor.
I be the mayor. Yeah. Yeah, everybody knows that. And I'm really pleased. I got an unstable internet. So let me hope I get through here. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Hanover Park's 5th annual Small Business Forum, our pivot strategies for growth. I'm so enthused to be with you for the kickoff. We're pleased to have partnered with our Economic Development Committee, the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce, the Northwest Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the Women's Business Development Center, our Poplar Creek Public Library, and the Hanover Park Branch Library to organize this event. Welcome all. This year's event is sponsored by the Hanover Park Community Bank Wind Trust and First Eagle Bank in Hanover Park. Thank you both for your leadership, for your financial support, and being an integral part of the success we have together in the village of Hanover Park. I want to thank you all for joining us. Now, our Director of Community and Economic Development, Shubhra Govind, who gives us at least 80 hours a week, working herself to the bone. Many times I go drive by 7 o'clock at night, and there she is in her office. I really appreciate the extra effort, Shubhra, you give to our village.
Absolutely. The community is the community and the leadership both inspire staff to work and serve you. So here we are. And once again, thank you, Mayor. What we are trying to do here is help our businesses, giving them the tools that they might need to do even better. And in today's climate, everybody's trying to make do with what they have, but do something a little bit different, use it differently, maybe using the same tools that you might already have. But this is what's called pivoting. So in case some of you that are attending may be wondering what pivoting is, you probably have already heard it. It's a term being used today a lot. Pivoting is using something that you already had, but using something differently, and using it differently to pivot your business to go in a bigger dimension, greater success in these extraordinary times you've never seen before. So what we're trying to do here is help you get to new markets, products, build your business with your existing resources. And what we have with our program today are experts who will give you the tools, will give you some pointers for how to use these existing tools you may have to create new growth and survival strategies, really. So we have 3 sessions today. After each session, there will be a Q&A, and you'll be welcome to ask questions through the chat. We will be monitoring it and bring it to our panelists for discussion. With that, I'm gonna bounce it back to our first presenter. We have, well, actually, I'm gonna give it to Terry to moderate. Terry Simmons from WBDC, who's been a great partner with the village.
Good morning, Subra. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Village of Hanover Park for allowing us to partner with you again this year. We're very excited, and thank you, Mayor Craig. It's always good to see you. I know Mayor Craig from some years ago, my corporate years, and he's always been a great person and a great partner, and I'm really happy that we've continued that relationship. So as Subra said, 2020 has been very unique for small business owners. They've gone through a lot. I've talked to hundreds of small businesses since the month of March, and all of them unique in their own ways, and all of them having their own unique challenges. But in today's market, as Super mentioned, pivot is the new buzz term. So today we want to bring you some tools and resources that can help you create some innovative ways where you can continue to thrive and in spite of what's going on with the pandemic and in today's market, in today's society, but continue to grow your business and be successful and thrive. Because just as the word implies pivot, it means making a shift, doing something differently. So I am happy to start the first session off with Lynn Lobbit. She is the founder and president of Diamond Dog Marketing, and she started her company in 2013. She was an award-winning executive with Motorola. She worked there for over 16 years, and she began her marketing career with Gloria Jean's Coffee. So welcome, Lynn. We also have Sarah Troya. She's the director of and business analyst at the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Elgin Community College. That's a long title, Sarah.
I didn't pick it, but it's what they gave me.
I love it. But most interesting to me about Sarah, she's a trailblazer. She started her first business at 14 years old, and she's had 3 successful businesses since. She served as a turnaround consultant and CEO of a Phoenix area chamber of commerce, and she holds a number of other certifications and esteemed accomplishments. So welcome to the panel, Sarah. So we have Sarah and Lynn with us this morning. So welcome, and I'm going to let you guys bring us up to speed about this wonderful topic. I want to hear what you guys have to say about connecting with the changing customer and marketing your business. We all know that Facebook is no longer enough. Businesses have to do more. An online presence is very, very important for all businesses now. E-commerce is significant. So in today's market, Lynn, I'm going to start with you. Can you share some thoughts around what you're seeing in the market as far as from a Facebook and an online presence? What is trending, and what do businesses need to know about making that mindset change? Because in 2020, we've got to make some mindset shifts, but making that mindset shift to make sure that they have a good presence online.
I mean, there's several things that can be done, obviously, because yeah, social media is not the be all end all. I mean, it's important to have a social media presence, but as we know, a lot of the opportunities, the in-person opportunities are not there right now. So having that digital presence is so key. And there's so many different ways you can have a presence beyond just social media. I mean, for example, look at this webinar here. It's a great opportunity to present yourself as a, credible resource. And also there's other opportunities online that people just don't even realize in terms of, different publications. There's associations and different companies that are always looking for fresh content, and content is so key. Get the word out there with content, not just regular advertising, because content does last a lot longer out there. When you have an ad campaign, it runs for a month or whatever. But if you have content, you produce, say, an article for an association, that could last out there for months or even years. And, and it can be reused and put on social media, but there's so many other avenues you can use besides just your social media pages.
Wow, that is so awesome. And I like the fact that you use the word reuse, repurpose, if you will, warm up. I like to use the word microwave or warm up. And so I like that you said that, because a lot of small business owners feel that they have to recreate the wheel, but that's not necessarily so. What customers liked in the past, we like the same things now. So perhaps there's an opportunity to look into how you can take some of the things that you already have and incorporate and just make
Exactly.
those appear new, if you will. And, incorporate those into your strategies, your current strategies, because your customers will tell you what they like. So what I've found that if you do a little bit of analysis to see what they liked in the past, and then try to
Mhm.
provide them with some of those same type of things, that tends to go over real well. Thank you, Lynn.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, go ahead. I didn't know, Sarah, what are your thoughts around the same line, thought line? What are some things that you're seeing that's really, good ideas or tips that you can give for small businesses around, an online presence, maximizing their online presence?
Yeah, so I mean, I would echo exactly what Lynn said. I'm seeing the same thing, the same trends. I have a sort of a unique position right now, like you with the WBDCs, you know this just as well as I do. The business climate is so stressed. The business owners, everyone's on edge. Everyone's just like losing it, right? So I think that it's really important that businesses acknowledge that their customers right now not only are looking actively for them to communicate with them, but they're also looking for some sort of acknowledgement that I see you. I know that, we're all dealing with this together without it being kitschy. So what I mean by that is I think it's what I'm seeing is a lot of business owners who are really struggling with where do my lines of communication, where are they drawn with my customers? Where do I have to be a little more flexible right now? And then what do we do moving forward to make sure that, right now we're over communicating. We're, texting customers day in, day out. We're on Google, our Google, has started doing the business listings where you can go and ask a question of a business. So there's all these forms of online communication happening simultaneously. And businesses are really struggling with that. While it's needed right now, because it's the only way to communicate with customers right now, or one of the only ways, I think it's going to be something that long-term the businesses are really going to need to learn to mitigate and control what channels you're using and be thoughtful about them. Right now, everything's kind of flying loosely. So I guess my thoughts there is, work with a business, a professional like Lynn, work with a WBDC and SBDC to figure out what really makes sense for your customers, what they really need in terms of communication from you, and then control those channels when everything else is kind of out of control right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because, the tools and resources are great, and this is something I get from a lot of clients as well. I don't have the budget. I don't have I'm not technologically savvy. So how do I do that? So making their marketing dollars stretch, where to invest and where to reevaluate.
Mhm.
And so I know we have small businesses out there too, who there were opportunities to get funding, right? And some of them were not prepared. A lot of them didn't have the foundational things in place that they needed in order to be able to go out and apply for loans or grants and things like that. So they were not able to perhaps get that funding that was available for them to have those dollars to invest into a marketing strategy. So what are some ways that customers can look to invest in a marketing strategy, stretching their dollars when dollars are very, very scarce?
Good question. Lynn, do you want to tackle that, or you want me to
Go right
touch on
ahead.
it? We both can, I guess. I'm seeing there's a lot of really good online tools that are free and really accessible even for less than tech savvy people. So I had a slide, which I'm not even going to bother sharing. I'll just read off. But one of the things that come to mind is Google My Business Listing. That's huge. It offers so many, it's free. It's gybo.com. I'll make sure that I get that somewhere, put in a chat. You can set up your Google business listing if you haven't already, or if you already have one, get it up to date, get it refreshed with all of the information that's going on in your business. It's like a one-time setup. And then every time you've got a little bit of a change, you can go back and change it, and it makes it really simple. There's an app on your phone. So almost anyone can do it. And it's a really good way to get visible with no dollars involved and very, very little learning curve. Another really good tool that I like is if you find yourself in a position where you're managing some of your own social media, or you are working on email marketing and you need some graphics, there's Canva. It's a free tool, canva.com. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it does not replace, I want to be very clear, it does not replace the value of a graphic designer. So I think that that's a big, doesn't mean you can go on there and make your little logo and it's going to be perfect and exactly what you need. Definitely be thoughtful with that, but it's a great free tool that if you find yourself in a position where you had to cut your budget down and you can't pay that professional anymore, it's a nice little Band-Aid.
Actually, we used it to create the flyer for this event as well. And you're right, Sarah. Yeah.
It's phenomenal, right? And it's pretty easy. It's click and drag. I mean, they have a lot of templates and make it really easy to go on brand. You can upload your logo. So it really helps you kind of create that polished marketing branded look without having to necessarily pay a graphic designer at this point. Again, want to stress, graphic design is very, very key, especially if you're in an e-commerce business where you're all online. There's different industries where it's far more important than others, but that's a great tool. Google Analytics should be installed on your website right now. It's a click of a button, super fast. And that's a way that, and it's also free because Google's got a lot of great free tools. But it's a great way to capture data on what's going on your website. So if you find yourself in a position where all of a sudden more people are finding you online than ever before, which is what most businesses are in that position right now, it gives you good insight. Where are they leaving your website? Are they getting to the homepage and getting stuck and then leaving immediately? Are they clicking around a bunch to look for things? So it's going to give you a little bit of that consumer insight on what's happening online for you. Again, free. And then the other one that I was going to mention are things like SurveyMonkey, which is a great way to collect what's going on. They've got a great free platform. Obviously, some good paid features, but it's solid. You can't go wrong with it. You can brand it. It looks good. Now is the time to start collecting feedback from your customers. If you're in that pivot point, to Terry and Shuba's point, you know, how do you pivot if you have no insight from your customers or your clients? So this is a great time to reevaluate that, send out a couple emails. And then to finally kind of wrap up the whole free part, email marketing is the cheapest form of marketing you could possibly have. And it has been for a really long time. It also is per the amount that's spent on it is always almost still, I think, and maybe Lynn knows better than I, as of a year ago, it was still the most powerful form of marketing because it's the only form of marketing that we really have right now, or one of the only forms that's accessible for a small business that you can get directly in the inbox of a person that you know their name. You can find very specific data on them. It's very different than sending out a Facebook campaign and you say, oh, great, I got 1,000 impressions. What does that mean? An email campaign, you know exactly who those 1,000 people are. So I guess my point being there is there's a lot of free or almost free, $10 a month email marketing. MailChimp is one of them, Constant Contact. There's a bunch of different ones. They all have different features. I prefer MailChimp myself, but that's just because it's very user-friendly. But they run about $10 a month to start out. And even if your email list is 20 people, get started with some email marketing. I'm sure Lynn will speak to that when she talks a little bit more about content because she's the master of that. How to use email marketing really, really effectively because it is so inexpensive. And if you're not in their inboxes, they are forgetting about you. So I think that's that was long-winded, but those are sort of the top ones that I can think of that are really cost-effective and really accessible. You don't have to be the most tech-savvy person to do them, and it's very much worth the time.
That was very, all of that. Everything that you said was spot on. Great. And for Facebook ads, I find a lot of small business owners use Facebook ads because you can manage and you can select your demographics. So you can do you can go in and do some deeper type of targeted marketing, if you will. So thank you for sharing all of those tips. And in the chat, if anyone has any questions, or we will be putting our contact information. We will be sharing how, some tips in the chat for you as well. If you have any questions about what any of the presenters are saying, please make sure that you put it in the chat so that we can direct your question to them so you can get the information that you're looking for. Again, this is a webinar but I always like to call them workshops because there should be something that you're doing when you're getting this valuable information. There should be some work, whether writing it down, that's work, right? You're exerting some energy, taking notes, that's work. Incorporating, I always suggest as you're sitting here, think about what tips that you can take as the presenters are speaking and incorporate into your plan for the next quarter. So think about how you can take some of these ideas and write those down, and then you can reflect and go back to those a little bit later on. Okay, so to Lynn, same question around some things or marketing. How can businesses make their marketing dollars stretch with some low cost marketing tools or free ways that they can make sure that they have a digital presence?
Well, definitely the email marketing, as Sarah mentioned, and MailChimp does actually allow up to 2,000 contacts for free, I think. So that's a great way to start off. If you have, 20 contacts, just use it. And it is very easy to use too. But the thing is too, I think you have to have some kind of message you're sending out, obviously. So one of the things you can do, like I was mentioning earlier about repurposing. So say you do create a blog or an article, and say, for example, the article is in an association publication, because associations are always looking for fresh content. And it could be a newsletter, it could be in their online magazine as well as their, printed magazine. And it doesn't matter if you're a member sometimes either. They're just looking for fresh educational content. And there's actually publications out there too, usually industry publications that you don't have to do pay for play. You can submit an article. Like for example, if you're in the manufacturing industry, Modern Machine Shop is one, or if you're in telecom, Above Ground Level, I know accepts articles for free. Well, after those articles are published, what I usually do then is you turn it into a blog on your site. And then from there, you have to give usually credit to the original source and stuff, but then take that blog and turn it into an email campaign. We did that when we wrote an article for the Fabricator, which is the Fabricating Manufacturer Association. So we took that, we turned it into a blog, and then we put it into our email newsletter out, and we sent it out to our potential and our current manufacturing customers. And we got great reuse out of that. And also we were able to use that link because they'll provide a link to that original article. You want to use that on your social media as well as that link to your blog too. And then when you do get those articles published, the good thing is you get a valuable backlink that will help your site get found with SEO. So we got a valuable backlink from the FMA or fabricator.com. So that's a great free way that you can get so much use out of one piece of material or content that you create. The other thing is, and this is a little bit different, I don't know if anybody's heard about this, it's called Haro, Help a Reporter Out. And it's actually a website you can go to, and what journalists are looking for content or expertise when they're writing different types of articles. You can go to this website, you can sign up for different categories. Like, for example, there's one on business and finance. Then twice a day, you get emails. There's, I think, one in the morning and one in the afternoon you get that actually lists all the different pieces of information that journalists are looking for. And you can go through them and say, hey, I'm an expert there. I can answer that question. Or they may ask you, to either answer a question, answer a survey. Sometimes they want to talk to you. But then if your information gets published, it's great because, again, you're on a new site that you've never been on before. So you're going to get great exposure. And also, I always look for the ones, just selfishly, the ones that let you put in information about you and your website and stuff, because there are some that will just say it's anonymous. They won't mention who they received as information from. But I like the ones where they give you credit, and we've done that a few times, and it's been great exposure. And then you put it out on your social media pages too, and it makes you look like a thought leader. That somebody actually, it wasn't you that published the content, but somebody else did. So those are just a few things. One other one I want to mention too is podcasts. Podcasts are becoming so popular nowadays because of COVID. So many companies now are doing podcasts. And, lots of times, like, a company you're working with may ask you to be a guest on their podcast, or if there is a company that you're interested in maybe doing something with, lots of times they have a request on their site looking for either a panelist or a speaker for their podcast, and you could submit for that. And there's also a site called matchmaker.fm, and you can put yourself on there. So you can either be a speaker for someone, or if you want to set up your own podcast, you can actually look for speakers there too. And speaking of setting up your own podcast, there are tools. It's not as hard as you think it is. Like for, I think, Mac users, there's a tool called GarageBand, and for Android, it's Audacity. And actually, we have a whole blog on setting up a podcast on our site too, if you want to check that out. But that's another good way to get some visibility out there and really get to the target audiences that you want to reach.
Awesome.
And others, actually, there's a question that came in through the chat.
Mhm.
We have a business in town, and he actually runs a restaurant, and I'm going to do a plug-in for this. He has a restaurant on Irving Park Road called Hollywood Taste. And he is asking, what is the best company for email marketing? Basically, what, if there is any that you would suggest, and what is the best site? What are some of the best sites for marketing?
I suggest MailChimp, just because if you're starting out, it's free, like I said, for up to 2,000 users. And it is, like Sarah said, it's easy to use. It's easy to design the campaigns. And, then it's very nice because you can link back to your social media pages from that campaign. You can link back to your website. So I think that's the best email campaign tool to use to start with.
I agree with that. And I wanted to say one more thing. So you'll see a lot of comparisons between like a MailChimp and a Constant Contact. If you are between those two, I would side with Lynn, always go MailChimp. My sole reason is because Constant Contact, even when you pay for it, does not remove their own branding from the bottom. And I'm a big brand girl, and it drives me crazy. You never want your logo conflicting with the logo of a service provider you have. And so if there's no other reason to choose MailChimp, that's the one. With the free version of MailChimp, I don't think you can remove that logo, but it's like grayscale. It's not the big full color Constant Contact logo. So if you're between those two for any reason and they're very comparable, MailChimp is always the way to go, even just from a consistent branding standpoint. So just had to throw that in there. I have a bone to pick with Constant Contact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
can I ask a quick question before we move? These email marketing campaigns, how does a business actually collect the emails for their customers? Any suggestions? And do they have to buy a database, or how do you collect emails?
I mean, tell you honestly, I'm not a big fan of buying databases because there are a lot of leads that are not good, and some lead providers will then substitute new leads if ones are not good, but there's others that just don't, and they can be quite expensive too. I mean, it does take time to get a database together, but you can have a sign up on your website, say sign up for my newsletter, get information that way, get their contact information, or you can do gated content, which means, say, if you do a case study or a white paper, in order to access that content, they'll have to provide, their email address, name, phone number, whatever information you want to gather from them, and they can be added to your database. I mean, hopefully as events open up to another way, in-person events, you can gather cards and that way too. So there's a few different ways you could build that database, but it does take time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a lot of our own small businesses that they may not all have newsletters or have the ability to write content, et cetera, if they're small businesses. How do they get started with an email campaign?
One of the things that when I talk to the small business owners, to think how they can utilize their employees. So from a standpoint, you may have an employee on your staff, so it's always good to talk to your team who may be technology savvy, who may be a resource for you, and who may have an hour or something out of their day where they can manage that for you. So think about how you can bring your staff into the picture if you have staff, because you never know what type of skill set they have. I've learned that, and one of my mottos is you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't ask, you'll never know. So one of the things, other things that I also suggest is when you're trying to build your database, those family and friends that you have, your kids, ask them to help to share your content, your newsletter. Ask them to help share any information, your marketing promotions. Your kids have friends, they're online all the time anyway. Ask them to help share. That's how you can help build your database. And it's free, it's simple. And people will normally do that for you. All you have to do is ask. So I am really having a good time with this segment because I love marketing. I am learning so much about marketing. I don't have a marketing background. I have a business background, but marketing has always been one of those areas where I have not been so savvy, but over the last year, because of COVID and because marketing has been so important for small businesses, I myself have picked up a lot of tools that I have incorporated into my small business, such as a newsletter, such as being online and being present with my clients. And I've built my client base up tremendously. And I've started a talk show, and those folks that I've built up through an online talk show. And so that base of folks that I've built up, those people are now my viewers on my talk show. So try to think about how you can take what you already have and incorporate it and pivot and do something different. And I think that's what we're talking about today. So Lynn, as a content expert, let's talk about content. And we all are challenged with what to say, how to say it, because there's so much out there. How do we make what we say stand out versus all of the other information that's receiving? So Lynn, talk to us about some things that we can do to make our content stand out versus some of the other content from folks that may have products and services that are similar to ours.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you probably heard repeatedly, content is king, which is so true because it's a great way to, broaden your visibility and really build your brand. But, it's key to write content a certain way too. Think about the keywords that, are important in your industry. And there's actually a free tool. Well, it's free, I think, for the first 10 uses, called Word Tracker. And it can tell you how many times that word has shown up over, been searched over the year, or how many times it's shown up on a URL and things like that. And the ones that are, very competitive, you don't want to go after, because if you don't have a big base of content to start with, you should go after, they call long tail keywords, which are words that, maybe only have 200 to 1,000 searches a month. But that is one tool that you could, check out for, like I said, I think the first 10 times you use it, it's free. But you want to make sure that you write your content properly in terms of, have your keywords incorporated in your titles and your subheadings, as well as throughout your content. That's all very important. But you don't want to stuff your piece of content with that keyword either, because Google's not going to like that. They may demote your page because of that. So, write it naturally, that it sounds like for humans, using those keywords. Also, the big thing is to make sure your content is unique. A lot of people tend to take content from another site and just, copy it. Don't do that, because Google actually is smart enough to know that when that content, say, shows up on your website, that it's not unique, and it will either demote your page or maybe not even show it all together. So those are a few things I can think of offhand that you want to make sure that, your content is written a proper way. The other thing is to think about what your customers are looking for. Answer some of their questions that you've heard out there, and also look at what the competitors are putting out there to make sure that you have different things that you are answering, and that you do keep your content fresh too. So you're answering different questions for them repeatedly, so that there is a reason, let's say if you have a website, for them to come back to. Because if you have stuff that's out there for, years, people are thinking, I'm not going to go back, that there's nothing ever new. And especially with COVID, you want to make sure that you look like you're a viable business, and you are, doing things. So those are just some of the things I can think of offhand.
Very good. Very, very good tips. to make sure your content is fresh, and especially now with COVID, making sure that you have, if you are a brick and mortar, safety protocol listed on your website, on your pop-ups, because people are very concerned about coming into locations that don't have the proper safety protocol or not following certain guidelines. So that's very important that your content is fresh and it's new. And so Tracy, from a content standpoint, I know a lot of folks use Facebook for marketing, and Facebook, Lynn mentioned that Google is very particular. They have analytics in place where they can identify if your content is unique or not. And Facebook postings can be a challenge because they are very particular about what you post. Can you share some insight to our audience, our participants, on posting on Facebook and some of the other social platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook is very tricky. No doubt about it. So I want to just say really quick while I have it on my mind, Lynn said right as she ended, and then you talked about it, Terry, is making sure that you let your customers know what's going on and that you're basically in business. So the question right now that everyone has when they go and decide they want to go out to dinner, for example, is the restaurant I'm going to, unfortunately, still open, right? We're kind of faced with that. So very important, to Lynn's point, make sure things are updated. To your point, Terry, about Facebook, it's very easy, guys. If you've made a Facebook post with your PPE, precautions that you've been taking, if you've updated your clients and how you're serving them during COVID, go ahead and on that post, you can pin that to the top of your Facebook page so that everybody who ends up on that Facebook page will see that pinned post, even if you have posted things since then. So it keeps you from having to constantly give your PPE procedures, and it keeps it top of mind for your customers. So it's the first thing they see. They know, okay, they're in business and they're taking these precautions. Great, I can go either visit them or call them or what have you. So I just wanted to say that really quick. In terms of your general Facebook marketing is incredibly difficult right now to get there organically. So Facebook's very, and maybe Lynn can shed some light on this too, but I feel like it's very pay to play, and particularly now. So my biggest advice is if you're on Facebook and the majority of your customers are on Facebook, find out what other platforms they're also on. Likely if they're on Facebook, they're tending to also on Instagram. Instagram's owned by Facebook. It's a little bit younger demographic that's on Instagram, but it's growing exponentially. And that's an easier platform to, in my opinion, to get eyes on you. It's a little specific to the kind of industry and business, but find a place outside of Facebook where those same customers are, and then expect that if you're posting to Facebook, that it's pay to play. You have to pay to even get a post in front of the people who already like your page. I mean, it really is crazy. So you can have the best content, you can have the best whatever, but that Facebook algorithm does not mess around. So that's been my experience. It's very cheap. That's the great news. It's still really affordable, relatively, compared to other marketing, where you're going to spend marketing dollars. But there's probably other ways outside of just posting to your business Facebook page that could get you some eyes. And the other part of that is if you are just posting things to your business Facebook page, there are Facebook groups, particularly in your local community. So for example, we have the restaurant owner in the crowd somewhere here. I would say, if you're putting things on your Facebook page about specials you're having, find the groups. If there's a Village of Hanover Park page, if there's a community page, find that group, share to that group. You want to be cognizant of any rules regarding selling yourself or your products or services on those. But that's a great way to get organic eyes in front of, on your content without having to swipe that card with Facebook. I don't know, Lynn, if
I would
you have.
like to, I would like to plug in our chambers for that too. They really do a great job of promoting our businesses. So if you're not a chamber member, please consider becoming one, because that is another great avenue for you to be promoting your business and getting a lot of visibility in front of others.
And just to elaborate a little bit on Sarah's point, not so much Facebook, but if you are a B2B business, LinkedIn. I think it's key that you have a company page there, and there are different groups that it's no selling, but you can go in there and make a comment, or you can ask a question, start a conversation, make yourself look like a thought leader out there, and people will remember you, and hopefully you can LinkedIn, and who knows where the future goes with that.
Yeah, and I understand from on LinkedIn too, you mentioned the word tracker or keywords. In
Mhm.
LinkedIn too, you can also do a similar thing. You can go in and put in keywords and find out what's trending relevant to that topic to make sure
Mhm.
that if you're doing hashtags and things like that,
Yep.
that you're using the hashtags that are currently trending to make sure that, hopefully you can get some visibility because you are, you're current.
Exactly. Mhm.
Any other questions in the chat? I know we've talked about a lot, so I always like to give the small business owners an opportunity to ask any questions. So this is free. So we talked about what can you get for free? This is free. Imagine that. So you want to take advantage of any free resources and tools. I was on a Zoom yesterday, again with my business, and there was a business lawyer. She's a trademark and copyright attorney, and she said something very profound. An educated entrepreneur is a successful entrepreneur. If you're not educating yourself, you're not educating yourself in your related to your business, chances are your business won't be as successful. It could be successful, but perhaps not as successful as it could be, because in order to make sure that you're providing the services that your clients need, you have to stay relevant. You have to stay current. You have to continue to retool that toolkit. That means you've got to invest into yourself, and you've got to invest into your business. And what better investment than free information, taking a few hours out of your day to get the information that you need so that you can pivot your business and continue to grow and be successful. I'm going to tell you, throughout this COVID, I've talked to a lot of small business owners, and emotions. Some small business is very emotional because they just don't know how they're going to do it. So I always advise them, the first thing to do is to sit back, take a step back, and start getting involved and engaged and try to find information. And a lot of times when you do that and you start engaging with other small businesses, you start picking up tips, and you also start picking up energy, because you understand that you're not in this alone. And so when you're not alone, I know we've all heard the saying during COVID-19, we're all in this together. Well, we are all in this together. So take advantage of opportunities like this. And like Super said, there are chambers out there that are very good at helping small business owners with tools and resources, bringing networking opportunities so you can build your database, you can build your client base. So take advantage of those things as well. So we have some more time for this segment. So I'm going to open up to Sarah and Lynn and allow them to share whatever other tips and tools that they feel would be beneficial for our participants today.
Thank you, Terry. Lynn, I've got a little tip and then I'll leave it to you. But my biggest thing and my thoughts while Terry was just talking is she made a really, really excellent point in terms of the educated business owner. I think part of that education, it's so important to educate yourself on your own limitations when you are a business owner. So it is very easy, particularly now when resources are tight, to try to do everything yourself, particularly in marketing, because marketing is such a beast of its own. It's an area that if you're not comfortable in it, understand where your limits are and be okay with finding the expert. If you're listening to Lynn talk about blogs and you're so overwhelmed by content and podcasts, maybe it's time to look for a someone you can trust, like Lynn, who is an expert, you will pay to do that work for you to alleviate some of the pressure that you have coming from all areas of your business. So I think it's really important that you understand, you know, hey, maybe I'm not the artistic design person. That's okay. Maybe I'm going to go find that person for my business. Know where you have holes. No one can do everything, and then fill them with the right people. I think that's really, really key. If you are stuck in where do I spend that money, and you're trying to decide what to do by yourself and what you'll hire out, I always tell a business owner this, particularly those who are in the startup, or if you're not quite paying yourself what you want to pay yourself yet, assign an hourly dollar amount to your time. So if you say, okay, I want to make $50 an hour in my business, that's my goal. Well, then every time you spend, dinking around on Canva or doing your email marketing, calculate the time or just the learning curve that it takes to do something like that. And then add up how much that costs you in your own time. Based on that dollar amount that you assign for yourself. And I think 9 times out of 10, you'll find, particularly if it's not your wheelhouse, it's not really what you're, enjoy doing. And marketing is something that some people enjoy and some people hate. It might be a good idea to say, okay, well, I just spent $600 of my time trying to learn how MailChimp works. And I could have paid a Lynn or found, someone on my team who already knows how to do this, a fraction of that to make sure that it's done right. And so I think that's really key to remember, even now when budgets are so tight. I know it's hard to give up those reins a little bit, hard to give away a little bit of that control, but if you have the trusted provider, the person you can work with, it's so, so valuable. So that's just my last kind of words of advice. I don't know, Lynn, what do you have?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that that's so true. It depends where you feel comfortable doing certain things or feel like maybe you have some expertise in and maybe others you don't. I know like us as marketing providers, we really make sure that whatever piece of, collateral or content or whatever is created, any marketing deliverable is created, that we really use it to the max so that you get the most value out of it is one thing. People don't realize all the different ways you can use something. And the thing is that that's so key because you do have that limited amount and you want to make sure that everything too is on message. So everything's integrated. So all of a sudden you're, not going to create something that, oh, that doesn't even look like the same company that I got this other direct mail piece from or whatever it is. So those are just some, things that I think a marketing agency can help you with and, really kind of bring that value to your programs and also to, using your money as wisely as possible is what you want to make sure your marketing agency is doing for you too. And I just want to go back to podcasts a minute because Terry had mentioned about, education stuff. And like I said, podcasts have become very, very popular. And especially now, I mean, people are, listening to them on their smartphones all the time. So you can be doing other things like walking, working out, cleaning your house, whatever. And I think it's just a great tool that really can keep you up to date on, certain topics that you're interested in. So those are just kind of the last few things I wanted to mention.
Okay, can you guys hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, unfortunately, or fortunately, okay, I have some technology challenges going on right now. So you heard me, probably had doubles of me. Isn't Zoom wonderful? You can see everything and all of the bloopers too, right? But I had some technology challenges, so I'm back. I'm good. So, are there any questions, Super, in the chat for Lynn or Sarah?
I don't see any questions. What I have been doing is summarizing some of the talking points.
Yes.
So that if somebody had any challenges, either seeing the video, they can take a look at the chat session and get those. And of course, I'm sure I'm not catching everything valuable that's being said, but just so our attendees know, and we might have this as a summary for the future as well.
Okay. So I want
questions.
Yes. So, Sarah, how can folks in the audience reach you if they want to connect with you?
They can email me, is always the best. My email is just stroyer, my last name, at elgin.edu. They reach out via email anytime. The small business development centers are no cost to you. The WBDCs are another great resource. They're similar. And so please reach out. And if anything, if you need a third opinion, a second set of eyes on something, if you just want to talk through your marketing strategy before you go find a provider, that is what we are here for. So by all means, send me an email. We'll get you set up and get you an advising session. It's grant funded, so it's no strings attached for you. I'm just here to make sure that you get the resources you need and get your hands on all the free stuff, honestly, because we know that you need that right now. And I wanted to mention really quick, it's open to the public. We have on SEED, ECC has partnered with SEED, which is the South Elgin Economic Development group, to do a breakfast event on October 20th from 7:30 to 9 in the morning. So if you are interested in hearing more about that, it's just another business with free business resources. So send me an email if you want details on that. I can get that for you as well.
Sarah, you mentioned that the service is free. Is there a phone number that can, after
Yeah, I have to find my cell phone number. Email's always the best. We're not in the offices right now, so we are not by our office phone. So if you do call it, the best way to get a hold of us to see all the contact options is elgin.edu/SBDC. And that will give us the phone number, my email, our general email, all that good stuff's there. But know that if you do call, you will not get an answer because we have to check the voicemail on that phone. So we will call you back, but you just won't get a live person on that call.
Okay, and that service is free, like you mentioned. So I just wanted to.
It is, yeah. So we're grant funded by the SBA, the state, and then ECC comes in and match funds that. We just reopened. Actually, Sybil, who I just am meeting now for the first time, she's the former director, so she knows them really well too.
Absolutely.
We're excited to be back. I came over from the college to DuPage SBDC, so I've been in the space for about 4 years. So we're just kind of rebuilding in Elgin and getting everybody back on board, and it's been great so far. But we always are welcoming new clients. So all you got to do is send me an email. I will get you all the details. It is virtually 5 minutes, and we can set up an appointment and get you started with us.
I do see 2 additional questions.
I do too.
One is if you could repeat the free design site,
Yeah.
Canva.
To a certain point, it is free, but once you want to start using something a little bit more professional, then it's very nominal though.
Yeah, it's $12.95 a month, I believe, for the full version, and you get stock photos. You've got access to more vectors and graphics, which is huge. So if you really get into it, it's a great investment. I've been paying for 3 years. I've never once regretted a second of spending that money. So it's great, but definitely see what you can do with the free version, because it might be sufficient for you if you're just doing some little things along the way. But if you really want to get crazy with it, they've got an awesome platform. It is well worth your $12.95 a month.
Yeah, I have to say we initially were using the free version and we used it for several events. And then we felt, well, it's a good investment to make.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, because I don't talk myself as very technology savvy, but Canva works for me. And my team, when I started to bring on others to my team, I had started to create some designs, and my team was able to take it over, and we're still using free and some basic things. We're probably going to upgrade again next year, but it's really a good tool, and it's very easy. What I like about it is very easy to use. So if your skills are limited, then you can use Canva.
And they actually also have a lot of COVID resources right now. So if you go on there and you're just poking around, they have a lot of templates. So if you needed a flyer to put in your window before clients walked in or customers walked in to let them know to wear a mask, they have tons of templates already made. So you can virtually go on there, change the wording a little bit if you want, put your logo on it, print it out, and it's awesome. And so they have a big bank of COVID-19 resources and infographics and things like that that you can use in your business. So if you use it for anything, use it for that.
Can anybody comment, if someone wants to go use an ad agency, what kind of price ranges are they looking for?
I think we didn't quite hear that. What was the last part of that?
If someone wanted to use an ad agency, what kind of price ranges should they expect to see? Obviously, you can spend as much as you want on marketing or as little, but what's reasonable for a startup business? And shouldn't they be spending a certain percentage of their operating funds on marketing anyways?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know when, I was in corporate, and I think this should apply probably to any business, is about 3 to 4% of, your revenue should be a minimum spent on marketing. So think about what you made last year, and that should be, 3 to 4% of that is what would be a good, rule of thumb to go by. I know some companies are doing a lot more now, or I shouldn't say now, but starting in 2019, I noticed there were some increases, but I would say the minimum is 3 to 4%. And, and it really depends upon, pricing upon what they're looking for. I mean, we can do, agencies can do everything from managing your Facebook to, creating content, creating a website. So it really kind of varies in terms of pricing, what you're looking for as a deliverable.
And I would say too to that, so hard to pinpoint pricing. It's going to be all over the place. You're going to go get quotes on a website. You'll get 20,000 one place, 10,000 other place, 1,500 one place, and 500. I virtually had a client do that. They came to me and they had 3 quotes, one for 500, one for 1,800, and the last one was for 6,000 for the same scope of work. So I think it's really important that you have someone that you trust, like in an SBDC person, a mentor of some kind, someone who's been in your space before, maybe a peer in your industry, to help you with that, because it's very easy, especially when you don't know what you don't know. I think Terry used that earlier. To spend without knowing. So as long as you know what the spend's for and you can justify that, and you think, I know who my customers are, I know that they're here, so I know this is a need, that's really important. If you can't do that, if you can't connect the scope of work that you get from an ad agency to your business goals, that's a problem. And I think it would help to have that conversation. I know a lot of what we do, in the SBDC world is, I'll look over your quotes. I'm never going to tell you what to do, but I'll say, okay, this is what they're giving you. Sometimes that language can be confusing. You're not sure what these deliverables mean. So if you need someone to just go through line items with you and help you understand what you're truly getting out of that, that's key. And I think the other thing to know is expect, when you hire an agency for anything, expect months before you see a return on that, if any, because it is a slow burn, especially content.
Exactly.
It is a slow burn. So if you go to Lynn and say, hey, Lynn, I want, all this content created. I've got enough to pay you for a month. I'm going to say, Lynn is a miracle worker, but in a month, the internet doesn't work like that. So I think it's really important that you understand that when you go for agencies, you go towards them, you need to 6-month minimum commitment to them and expect to go forward from there. So it's hard I know that's stressful, because then you want to pick the right provider, because you're like, well, what if I pick the wrong one and then I'm there for 6 months giving them my money and nothing happens? Sometimes it's a gamble, but use your peers, use your network, use the SBDC, use the WBDCs, find a mentor you can go line by line item with, so you're really comfortable with that purchase, or as comfortable as you could be.
Let me just add to that too. The thing is too, when you do find the right provider for you, I mean, you really need to do a good vetting process too, because a lot of people do hang a shingle out and say they're marketing, but if you really kind of peel back, what marketing experience do they have? How long have they been in business? Because I've heard some horror stories out there, and people have some very bad feelings about marketing providers. So that's a key thing to do is, look what they have produced in the past, have them, give you work examples, have them, ask for testimonials, or if there's clients, happy clients they've worked with for a period of time. But I think you need to do a strong vetting process to make sure that you get the right provider and that they're using your dollars wisely too.
That is such a great point, Lynn. Ask people. Those are just like with your business, free referrals are the best referrals, right? So ask around for sources for marketing. Thank you very much, both of you. Your information in the chat on how to contact you with the Women's Business Center. We're at www.bdc.org. Aisha McBurrows and Abby Scanlon, they are the will be on the third segment of our event today. They are directors at the Women's Business Center. I'm a past director of the Women's Business Center. I'm currently a consultant with the Women's Business Center, working directly helping small businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19. So our services are free. As similar to Sarah, we are working remotely right now due to the pandemic. My email is tsimmons@wbdc.org. Aisha and Abby will share their information later on as well, but you can reach us. We can help you with resources. If you're looking for resources, that's one of the things that we do. We help you get access to contacts, contracts, and cash, capital. Those are the biggest things that we do at the Women's Business Center. So you can reach us as a resource as well. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Sarah. You guys have provided, you ladies, I've got to stop using guys so much. You ladies have provided some wonderful information that I'm sure all of our small businesses can use. But remember to keep it simple. Try to look at what you already have. It's free. See how you can reuse that and repurpose that. And then again, we have some resources available to you. So thank you for
Terry, can I, just for the purpose of the group to know, WBDC, even though in the name it says women, they actually help all businesses, not just women-owned businesses. And they've been a great partner helping our businesses. At one time, we even had office hours for WBDC here, but given the pandemic, hopefully we'll be able to resume that someday soon. But
thank you, Supra. And I think we're getting ready to go on to the next segment. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I don't know if our current audience, so we're going to bring in our next segment of speakers, and just bear with me one moment, if you will, because I need to look at their bios so that I can make a proper introduction for them. But our next speakers are subject matter experts as well, and they're going to be talking about following the money, reading your financials, the NLNW case study success. And our speakers are Sybil Edge and Manan Yoshi. So we all know that QuickBooks is not enough. And so Country Style Donuts is one of the businesses in Hanover Park, and I think we've heard about them this morning, is one of the businesses in Hanover Park that has completed the Next Level Northwest Business Acceleration Program and has grown in 2020. Coach Sybil Edge of Oracle Business Planning and Manan Yoshi of Hanover Park's Country Style Donuts will discuss the changes he made this year as they work together and how Sybil followed the financials to identify new growth strategies and help Manan to continue to grow and be successful in his business. When properly categorized, business financials will provide path to business growth and opportunities. So they're going to discuss, are your financials in order? Do you know your strongest profit centers? What does your cash flow tell you about your potential growth sectors? Following the money will help you understand what sectors of your business are turning the best profit, bringing in more clientele, and where you should focus. With the business coach, you will work on your business and not just in your business. And I'm going to tell you, I'm really excited about this segment because I've talked to a lot of business owners again this year during COVID. And remember around May, June, July, there was the CARES Act, there was access to capital, Hanover Park, the state of Illinois, money was coming. A lot of small businesses were not prepared. So I'm excited about this segment. So welcome, Sybil. Welcome, Manan. They're going to talk to us about all of this financial stuff and how important it is and how we can make it incorporated into our business to make sure that businesses are continuing to be successful. So, hi guys.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First, sorry, my last name is pronounced Eggy. Eggy.
So,
What did I say?
EGE, everyone makes a mistake on that.
You know what? And I think I'm sorry, Sybil. You know I
That's
know
okay.
And Manan's last name is pronounced Joshi.
better. Josh. Josh.
That's okay. I'm used to that now.
Yeah, right.
I told you we were gonna have some goof-offs today, right? Bloopers. But welcome you guys, and thank you so much for coming on today. So let's just get right into this segment. And Manan, how did you know that your financials were not in order?
So I've been in this business for 15 years, and I think, first of all, I have to thank the village, Shubra, and the team for at least getting me onto this platform and giving me the opportunity to work with Sybil. It was an awesome experience. Um, I, c- you know, 15 years I've been doing this, and you have a very tunnel driven mind when it comes to a business because you go in, you continuously, repeatedly keep doing the same thing. You look at the numbers, yet my financials were so messed up in a sense that I'm paying personal bills out of the business and business is paying for this and I have nothing categorized. But again, the idea behind it was the business, the numbers are there, yet they're not organized like it should be, where they're separated, etc. It's a common thing. It's a very small thing because at the end of the day, business owners look at it, it's my money. It doesn't matter what it is, or it's my expenses. And when Sybil came in and she looked at it and she said, Manan, what is this? This is what we need to do. This is the expert that we need. And she looked at it from an outside perspective. And believe me, it was a big thing because, my profits were this. And then when we got done, we were like, oh my God, Manan, this is what it is. So I think it's an eye opener, and not only just the QuickBooks aspect, but overall when we look at retail versus wholesale versus commercial versus catering, there are so many different factors that come in, especially given the circumstances that we're in. We were delivering donuts and pastries to downtown 3-4 times a day at one point, where it's changed now, and now we're focusing more on DoorDash and Grubhub, and how do we, just like what Terry was saying about the pivoting, so all those things really factored in, and luckily I got the chance to work with Sybil before all this hit. So it was right at the end, and this all began, and we saw the change, we saw the transition that took place. So I think there's just not one factor that plays a role when it comes to this. It's many different factors. Sorry if I just keep blabbering on, just stop me.
Okay, that's okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to call up a presentation because I want to first explain to our listeners what Next Level Northwest really is all about. And then we're going to go into more particulars about the experience Manan and I had together. So hopefully I can do this. Share. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first, I wanted to talk about what Next Level Northwest is. It's a 501c3 business, and we are a public-private partnership serving the Northwest Chicagoland area. And it supports regional and local businesses through really confidential business coaching to help grow the economy of the area. And the mission is to accelerate local businesses with the ultimate goal to strengthen and support that area, that community. And the communities that are part of Next Level Northwest are Hanover Park, Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, Elk Grove Village, and Rolling Meadows. And I think I've been working with Next Level Northwest for quite a while, even before it went public. But I've been coaching at least a half a dozen people since it started. The way I really was struck by the conversation in the prior presentation, where they were stressing the advantage of using free resources. Well, most people might think that if you bring in an outside consultant, you're going to get charged big bucks. And the advantage to small businesses in those communities is that they can participate in Next Level Northwest at no cost to them. The 501(c) organization pays the consultant their fee, and the business benefits by not having to pay, but still getting the advantage of talking to an expert. So if a business out there is interested, they need to do a pitch, but first they have to apply. And then they pitch their request for assistance to the community via some selection panel. And then if it is approved, it goes forward into the actual process. So it takes about 3 months. And we start off with what we call a discovery phase, which is where the consultant will work with the business to identify the true areas that are problematic. Sometimes we find that the application lists, a couple of things that they feel they need to improve on, but as you go into the process of discovery, you actually identify other things that may even be more important. After a 4-week discovery phase, we go into the actual engagement. And that's where we implement the strategies that we identified during that discovery. And the good news is that even though it's a 13-week intensive process, we continue to work with that client over the following 9 months to ensure they don't slip, so to speak. You want to make sure that you can always talk with them and help them out. And there's no additional money for that either. So Manan, why don't you tell us about your experience when you pitched?
It was interesting. I haven't done this in a long time. All I know how to do is make donuts. So I was a little stressed out, but everybody was very nice about it. They told me, Manan, focus on this, this, and this, which I did. And there was a lot of guidance from the Shubra and the team. So that helped a lot. And it was pretty much just staying focused and said, you know what, I need help with this. I want to improve my business, and this is what I need help with. And I need your help to get me on this. And that was pretty much just in simple words, that's how it worked.
So I just want to recap what we found when we actually started the application of the engagement is that we found that he had requested areas of need in sales and marketing, financials and planning, but we actually uncovered something that needed to be addressed as well. And I think, I hope Manan will agree with me on this, that what we really discovered through this process is that you have to get your ducks in a row before you start to expand. Manan has some great ideas for how to expand his business, and hopefully when this COVID is past, he can go forward on those plans. But you really have to make sure you're ready to take that next step. And also management oversight is going to be critical as you grow, because you might have a current business that's working great, but if you want to expand, you have to be able to bring in new people, and they have to be trained in how to proceed with your business in maybe another location. And finally, you need to spend time on the business, not in the business. This is a frequent refrain that I hear from my clients, that just working with an outside consultant is forcing them to spend time looking over their whole business as opposed to, as Manon said earlier, making the donuts. Do you agree, Manon?
I agree. Yes.
Okay. So we've talked about financials in general, and I'm just going to give you this beginning point, and then we can talk about various issues that we've discovered. So the financials are key, and there are a variety of components. It's not just that you got to get your data entered in and see how much money I made today. You have to deal with payables and receivables. You have to ensure you haven't made any errors. You have to do reconciliation. I've heard that some people don't do reconciliation, which I find unusual. And then you have to really understand what your P&L and balance sheet is telling you. So one of the things I've heard from people is that, you know, if, well, you're on QuickBooks, everything's going to be okay. I don't think so. QuickBooks is great. I use it myself in my businesses, and it's a great tool, but it's only as good as the data. Garbage in, garbage out. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. Terry, would you like to pose some questions to us? Is Terry there?
Actually,
I am
before Terry
here.
starts, Terry, may I take just a moment to, if there are any businesses that have joined in that are Hanover Park businesses and would like to know more about this program, please go to nextlevelnorthwest.org. And Sybil mentioned a pitch panel. Basically, it is set up similar to a Shark Tank, except that it's not as scary. We are much nicer. And we have a panel of about 5 people that business comes in and makes a presentation, makes their pitch. And based on, it's a very set criteria. There are some very specific pieces of info that the panel is looking for. And I'll be happy to sit down with any Hanover Park business that wants to go forward with this. There are certain criteria that you should meet, but happy to help. And if you're able to make their presentation and score based on the panel's evaluation, you get connected to a professional coach like Sybil to help dig deep into what you may be doing and how and what changes you need to make in order to get to that next level. That was it. Go ahead, take it over.
Yeah, are there any questions in the chat from, I'm looking to see. But so Sybil, so one of the things that small businesses struggle with is understanding where they're making their most profit, right?
Yes.
Can you explain to them how they can do the analysis to understand where they're making their most profit and can take advantage of those opportunities from those clients?
First, business is not just about profit, it's also about cash flow. So cash flow is actually more critical than profit, because if you don't have good cash flow, you won't have profit. So it's really understanding when your money comes in, where it's reported, and how you're using it. And do you have enough to proceed for the next few months? Or are you constantly dipping into your own private funds? Or are you late in getting your bills paid? So the bottom line, you really need to get a good chart of accounts, which is very basic, you know, what are my incomes, what are my expenses, and you have to record this information accurately. As I said, garbage in, garbage out. And you have to absolutely segregate your personal from business. That's a common error, and I understand why it happens. I myself have occasionally been neglectful in that area, is that you pull out the wrong credit card, or you say, well, I'll transfer money in later to recover it, and then you don't. So now you've muddled your personal expenses within the business. So if you want to make a profit, which is often a very, very important goal, is you have to first be sure to record the dollars correctly, and then to observe on a regular basis how the money is coming in and how it's being allocated. And I talk about lines of business in Manon's case. When we first talked, we really were just talking about retail versus wholesale. And, but wholesale costs are different than retail costs. And so you have to understand the margins for each. And if you're doing additional services, for example, if you're doing a lot of delivery, are your delivery service charges impacting your margins because you're sharing that with another service? Also, you have to, I want to be cautious about this, that if you want to entice people to come in to your business and buy your services or your product, there is this feeling that you have to do it by offering deals, by reducing your price. And as you reduce your price, you're going to reduce your margins. And if you do that too often, you're not going to have enough to really pay your bills. It's interesting that sometimes by raising your price, you will get more purchases because people will see, will imagine a perceived value that your product is better than somebody else's who is selling the same type of product. You're selling it for 10 cents and they're selling it for 8 cents. Well, maybe the 10-cent product is actually better. And so you've got to be careful when you determine pricing that it shouldn't be based solely on competition and trying to beat that competitor, because we don't know how that how profitable your competitor is, but you should know how profitable you are. So you have to price it so that you can make money in your business, and use marketing wisely to encourage people to see that you are creating something of greater value. I was wondering, Manon, if you could talk about that in particular, because your donut making is, you make them all from scratch in your business. You're not, you know, and your competition may be selling pre-frozen product.
That's correct. I mean, for us, we make everything from scratch. Nothing comes in frozen, actually. So
Twice a day.
what's
Twice a
that?
day, yeah.
Twice a day, all day long. I mean, that's the only way you can keep the quality going, even up until now. So one of the factors I think that I learned after speaking to Sybil, and when again looking from the outside in, is, you know, it's not always about giving customer a good deal or pricing or whatnot. Circumstances are a lot different, but when you're making the stuff from scratch and you're offering it at a cheaper price than what the competitor is offering it at, you're just basically taking money out of your own pocket. That's all you're doing at the end of the day. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So you have to kind of live with that. But yeah, I mean, for us, a lot of my team has been with me 15 years. So that labor, the payroll aspect, the quality of ingredients that goes into making the donuts and pastries are a lot higher just because they're not there are different flour, different shortenings, different oils. Um, there are a lot higher quality ingredients that goes in to make fresh donuts and pastries.
Thank you.
I have a question actually, Manan. Every business is different and every donut maker even is going to be different. If you could highlight what were the top three biggest changes that you made, which helped you, and my understanding is that you did see increased profits and growth in your business as a result of the coaching that you got from Civil. What were the top three major things that you changed that helped you get to that next level?
But one of the things, first of all, um, rather than being in the business, being on, when Sybil talked about that, that's a key factor, I think, because constantly I was so involved in the business, so hands-on, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to pass this off to Sybil, I'm going to give this shop to Shubra. It wasn't like that. It was more of Manan's going to take care of that, Manan's going to take care of this, and Manan can handle that too. So I think that played a big role. Second was the financials. I had all my financials mixed up because at the end of the day, I was thinking, okay, you know, I know I can read the numbers and say, okay, this is the amount of money I'm making. It's my money. At the end of the day, what difference does it make from an outside perspective? But I was wrong because when you sit there and look at it, then you know actually the amount of money you're making or the loss you're having or the expenses and the profit margins. So I think that's the second part. And third part is, again, in order for the business to grow, you have to have your ducks in a row, like Sybil said. Um, it's not only about making money, it's about, do we have a plan in place? So let's say if I want to franchise my business and open, do I have something in writing? No, I don't have anything in writing because guess what? I've been doing this for so long. I have everything in my head. I have all the recipes in my head. I have all the processes in my head. So I think those three things is write everything and have something documented. Those three things were the biggest things.
Those are great. Those are great points, Manan. And as a small business owner, I'm really glad that you're here because you can talk to uh, our audience firsthand experience having to create a product every day, 2 times a day. So that means that you are working quite rapidly. You're engaged in the day-to-day operations, everything all day. And so what a lot of small businesses get into, they're so engaged, like Sybil said, you don't spend time working on your business, you're working in your business. And it's all in your head. I know that I need X amount of sugar. I know I'm going to need this amount of eggs. I know I'm going to need this amount of milk. Okay, are you documenting that? And are you looking at, from a pricing standpoint, every day when I make these donuts, it costs me X cents to make one donut. That level of detail is what you need to know about your business, right, Sybil? And that's where a lot of small businesses get in trouble because when they look at their financial statements and they see all this money going out and then they see all this money coming in, have you looked to see if you are pricing your product correctly based upon what you're spending,
Right.
what you have to spend, and what you're bringing in? So Manan, I want you to talk more about that because that is a piece where I have a lot of conversation with small businesses, whether they're making donuts or whether they have a professional consulting and they're charging by the hour like I do. I struggled with that at first. I came from corporate America, so I didn't really have to worry about hourly salaries. Everything was there for me. So I didn't have to ask. I would get my raises. I knew that I was going to get, based upon, my performance, I was going to get a nice raise because I'm going to perform really well. Well, when you're working on your own, that's totally different. So you want to talk about that a little bit more, about how you were able to look at your business holistically and understand your costs versus your expenses.
So, I mean, I think we can relate to this now more than anything, given the circumstances we're in, for example. See, in my scenario, we have extensive high payroll because my team's been with me for so long. But by the grace of God, we have enough volume coming in that helps us day in and day out. We have a lot of support from the communities that have been there for us. But one of the things that I'll tell from a small business perspective is, when you're partnering up with third-party vendors such as, these Grub Hubs and Ubers and all this, make sure you guys price your product accordingly. Because when you're giving 30%, and when after you're done with your payroll, ingredients, and everything else that's said and done, you're actually probably giving money out of your own pocket.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that comes into a big factor that I think Sybil said, "Manan, are you sure this is worth it? Because, you're spending X, you're baking twice a day, these to ensure that the customer is getting this fresh quality ingredients, whatever it is, donuts and pastries. But then when we look at the price point, are we losing money or are we actually profiting from it? So I think that's one of the factors that come in. So, it's how you price it. Um, cheaper doesn't always mean better. That's one of the things that Sybil taught me. I always thought, what, um, in order for me to gain a customer, I'm willing to give the product away at some point in time. I always thought that because I always looked at everything. I was trained from my predecessor the old-fashioned way, which was, it's more of long-term relationship. But at the end of the day, you still have to feed your team, and they're dependent on you. So I think that factor comes in. That is the store making money, or you're just basically, spinning your wheels in the mud, and we're not going anywhere. So I think price point is a big factor in making sure that the product that you're selling is profitable for you and your team.
Right. There's some other comments I'd like to make about financials. I mean, it's a topic not everybody wants to talk about. Some people find it boring, but it shouldn't be. It's the heart of your business. And it's important as a business owner to understand your financials. So you need to take the time to read them and know what they're telling you. So I would caution any business owner, and I've talked with many, many business owners. As Sarah mentioned, I used to run the SBDC at ECC, and I saw hundreds of people who didn't know how to read their financials. And so they relied on their accountant. And that's a false sense of security. Your accountant has expertise in taxes and how to apply the rules, but he doesn't have expertise in your business. You do. So you need to take the time to understand the numbers so that you can apply the business acumen that you have and that's unique to you to what the numbers are telling you. Sure, your accountant can be extremely helpful. They could be helping you with the reconciliation process, which a lot of people don't like to do. But they can't really give you the right direction on how to run your business. You alone know that best. There's another thing that I would like to mention is sometimes people put the financials aside because they're just too busy. And yes, they need to learn how to do it, but they don't have the time to learn how to do it. I think in a prior discussion today, we talked about education. So you need to educate yourself on the financials and not be putting this off. So by reviewing your financials regularly, you can mitigate that by training and delegating things to your staff so that you have the time to focus on the business, which is the higher level. Okay, so you need to develop managers and you need to implement procedures and training programs. Manan had, when we started working, you had at least 15 people working for you, and they were all direct reports, which in the corporate world, some people listening to this would say that's a lot of people to have on your team. So you have to think about delegating and perhaps promoting from within or from the outside, if that's what you have to do, to bring somebody in who can remove some of the day-to-day obligations from you so that you can spend the time on the business. That's how that's necessary for growing a business.
Hello,
Terry?
can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so internet connection is saying that it's a little unstable, so you guys bear with me. Hopefully you don't lose me, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so we know how technology and internet and all of that stuff works, so we're good with that. So if you lose me, I'll get back eventually. But Sybil, you have an extensive background, and I met Sybil when she was the director of Small Business Development Center at Elgin Community College, and she is a wealth of knowledge and information. She's an expert. And so we were talking about small businesses and using consultants. Well, Sybil has over 30 years in corporate America and many years helping small businesses. So she's an expert. So small businesses also, and we talked about this a little bit on the earlier segment, and we talked about free resources. There are a lot of things that are free, but there are some things that you just can't do for yourself. And small bit when it's the fourth quarter. So I'm going to stress this again. It's the fourth quarter of 2020. At this point in the game, if you don't understand your financials, you don't understand what your business has done for the other 3 quarters, I think you need to be talking to Sybil or some of the other professionals. And even if you do, there are some areas where you may not be as skilled at. Look into your budget to see where you can best spend your money to incorporate those resources into your business to help you with your success. It is imperative. It is imperative that small businesses have a plan. It is imperative that you reflect on what your business is doing. Manan talked about that earlier. Understanding what's going on in your business yourself as the business owner and knowing what you need to do, who you need to bring into, and maybe who you need to take out too. Sometimes there's things you need to take out of your business processes. So being able to reflect and identifying what those things are you need to bring into your business, and especially from a financial standpoint. I'm sorry, Sybil, go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to add that if you're not watching your finances on a monthly basis, and you now, as you suggested, here you are in October, and you want to perhaps think about next year, how do you, if you have not paid attention during the last 12 months, you can't do anything about that. That's water over the dam. So the reason why you want to have a discipline to look at your financials on a monthly basis is because if you made any errors or misjudgments last month, it's not too late to make corrections for the next month. But if you wait a year, you can't do anything about it. So you have to be timely in overseeing your business, and you just have to set aside or get somebody else in your organization or bring in an outsider to help you, give you the time necessary to be the business owner and manager of the business. There are a couple of services that are easily outsourced, and you should think about doing it. You can outsource the data entry functions of QuickBooks. You can outsource payroll, and you can outsource invoicing to somebody who knows QuickBooks really well. But nobody can set the budget for you for next year. Only you can do that. Marketing is another perfect example. If you didn't get a marketing degree from college, there are others who know better than you, perhaps, how to do this. So, divert some dollars to somebody who has the expertise. Those are the two primary areas where I think it's relatively safe to look for experience or expertise outside your own business.
Those are great points. Subra, do you have any, I'm looking at the chat, do you have any, I'm going to pause because we really haven't had a lot of questions. Okay, so here, are you able to talk about identifying what sectors to grow? Retail in-store versus drive-through, online versus selling third party?
Manan, I think that's for you.
Well, in these circumstances, we want to try grow everything we can in every department we can. The only thing I will advise, again, going back to it, is make sure you have your price point accurate, because that's going to be the key factor, that you're not taking money out of your own pocket when you're selling the product. Honestly, I mean, for me, when I look at it, I look at overall growth, and I try to do a percentage of, say, X. If I want to do 20% retail, 20% wholesale, and then 5% third party, how do we get there? What strategies do you use? What kind of marketing plan do we use? What kind of promotions we use? Those are the factors that come into play. But I mean, honestly speaking, I mean, right now, given the circumstances we're in, I would not be focused on one or the other. I would be focused on overall growth.
Where is your greatest source of income coming from now during COVID? I know initially it was the drive-through.
It still is. It still is. Right now we are still, I would say, 60 to 65% is drive-through right now, still, given the condition that we're in. Our wholesale has dramatically took a hit, but we still have some large customers that we're supplying to, so that's keeping us afloat, even though that's cut. But I think, again, it's not only one business that's in this, we're all in this together, as you guys, everybody keeps hearing that. So I think we just need to, again, go back and say, what strategies do we use? How do we price our product to ensure that we're not taking a loss when we're selling it?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So, how is your online?
Oh, sorry.
Is your online presence from a retail standpoint, has that grown from e-commerce? How are you doing with e-commerce?
Yes, before even I started working with Sybil, I wasn't that active. And one of the things that I learned throughout is, now right now with technology, everything is going towards it. Everything is, I mean, even myself now, as I look at it, if I can do something via the phone, I'd rather do it that than to open up my laptop, as simple as that. So I think online sales have been a tremendously, I would say about 300% increased, if
Wow.
not more.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Because of the fact that people are just using that more often than not. Before it was more of customers coming in and say, okay, I want X donuts. Now it's more like they go online and say, okay, I want ABC donuts. And that's how it's working. So I think if you don't have that presence, you're losing a lot of money at this point in time.
Wow. That is
There is something to be said about the pandemic, where it has really made us use technology more, and even businesses that never used to have drive-throughs, for instance, because of what's going on, have changed their business model. Businesses that did not have online presence before, or less so, are now focusing so much more on online presence. Unfortunately, there are businesses that are more service oriented that cannot. So I'm curious, Sybil, are there strategies that businesses can be using that are not geared towards a drive-through business, that are not geared towards, that in person? Are there any tips that can be offered to those?
Well, a lot of businesses are sort of woke up to the internet, and they put up e-commerce sites. So if you've got something that you can sell and send, you know, Amazon is having a field day here.
Yeah.
You order it this morning, you get it this afternoon. They're brilliant about that. And so if you have a product that you can sell that way, that would be a great way to go. In Manan's case, talk about pivot. When we started talking, the idea was to find a way to bring people to come in and sit and use his retail space. And we were developing programs to do that. And then COVID hit. And that's when the drive-up window really increased. So it's rethinking, well, if I know where my money's coming from and where my customers are, I can do that pivot. But if I don't have that information, I'm just like flailing.
Right. And like you said, Sybil, where your customers are from that budget and that spending standpoint, that's where you want to be spending your money. If you know that that retail side is not doing well, you want to continue to do some things over there, but where you're going to put the majority of your money. And I think before Lynn said about 3 to 4% of your market, of your budget should be focused on marketing. Well, it just depends on your business and what your strategy is.
Right.
I know businesses that spend up to 20% on their marketing because that's what their business dictates. So it just depends on your business type. So for you, 300% increase in your online presence, get ready for the holidays. Get ready for the holidays. That's all I can tell you. Put some money into that marketing budget for that e-commerce, because people are going to be wanting to have a festive time, have a good time, because we've been inside. They want to do different things. So also try to see how you can create some online experiences. That's the other thing that that businesses are doing. They're pivoting. How can I create an online experience? Maybe for a company that may want to do a virtual holiday coffee chat, you know, how can you create that experience? Host a Zoom, you deliver the donuts to each of the participants, you know, you facilitate the Zoom, come up with some team building or whatever that thing is they want to do. So change your way of thinking for your online presence, because we've all been talking about people they still want experiences. They still want to spend money. They still need something that can make them feel like they're connected. So how can you do that? How can you incorporate that into your business? So Sybil and Manan, you guys have been wonderful. I'm going to check to see what else is in the chat here. Suber, is there anything?
I haven't seen any other.
Increase in profit from your e-commerce. That is a success, a huge success story. That is wonderful. And Sybil, hats off to you for helping him to be able to do that. That is awesome.
Sybil, any other examples from your experience working with other businesses, or maybe if any other panelists have, where any specific examples for businesses to use to help grow?
I'm going to use a word that people hate: budget. Okay. Planning. Okay. So my consulting business is called Oracle Business Planning. And I named it that for a reason, and that's my specialty, because so many small businesses don't want to or don't know how to allocate the time to planning. I don't find budgets difficult at all, but that's because I like doing them and I've done them for years. So I think it is critical for a business to know where they're going. You don't want to be a reactive business. I mean, during COVID in the first couple of months, we had nothing but an opportunity to be reactive. But, and it's also hard to plan what's next year going to bring. We still don't know. The virus is not settled down, so to speak. But to whatever degree that you can plan better than you have before, I do think it's a worthwhile investment of your time. And that means you're going to spend more time thinking about where you've been and where you want to go and what are the steps necessary to get there. And then that translates into a physical budget, which is nothing more than projections of how you plan to see income coming in and how you expect to spend your expenses. It's a great opportunity to look at how you have been spending expenses. Again, if you've categorized your data properly, you could say, well, my gosh, I've been spending too much money in this area and it has not provided me the benefit that I thought it should. I should, reduce the budget on that line item and do something that I believe is more strategic for me going forward.
And that is such a good segue into my next thought, because at the start of the conversation, you talked about separating your funds, and Manan talked about that was an area where he was not doing so well. He had not put a lot of focus or importance in that area. Separating your business funds from your personal funds. That is a common thing, unfortunately, that small businesses do. So for 2020, if you're doing that, I don't want you to raise your hand in the chat, but if you're doing that, I want you to raise your hand and tell me you're going to stop. I want you to tell me you're going to stop, because businesses get in a lot of trouble when it's very difficult for you to be able to identify what you're doing in your business and what you're doing personally when you're mixing funds. So you should have an account for your business so that you do not have to mix your business funds with your personal funds. So that's what I want to encourage you to do if you do not have that. That's number one.
I agree.
Business account. Do some research on different banks. If you and create a relationship with a personal banker. Every small business owner should have a relationship with a personal banker. So if you have a personal account with your bank and you like your bank and they provide business accounts, continue to build that relationship and open up your business account. There are some things that you have to have. Check with your bank, do the research on the bank that you're intending to do business with to see what documentation you have to have in place, because there are some things that you have to have in place. Foundation, we talked about those foundational things, right? There's some things that you have to have in order to be able to open up a business account. And I know that's one of the reasons why a lot of small businesses don't have that separate account, because they don't have their business set up foundationally. So when you go to the bank to get that account, you have your tax ID number. You got to have a tax ID number to go get a business account. Okay.
We have in our attendees a couple of people from banks, wondering if somebody can type something in.
Yeah, their contact information. And then we have 2 banks that are sponsors too. So yes, those are some great resources if you're looking for a business banking account. So thank you, Supra.
I would actually recommend.
We are at 10:52. Oh. Sybil, I know you have some more wonderful tips and tools and takeaways that you want to share. So you want to go ahead and give us all of that wonderful information that you haven't been able to touch on yet, because she is a plethora of information and knowledge and all of that.
Well, I love what I do, so thank you for that. But this is simple. In establishing yourself as a legal entity, a legal business entity should be a piece of cake. All you have to do is go to your local WBDC or the SBDC, and they're going to guide you on the ways that you can establish your business. I know I did that very frequently when I was running the office. So there's sort of no excuse for not knowing how to do this, but you have to reach out and ask for help. And as we've heard, there's a lot of free resources that you can use.
Thank you, Sybil. Let's see, do we have anything else in the chat? Manan, any other comments that you would like to share with the other participants, small business owners, before we close out this segment of today?
No, I think if you thought about participating in this program, and if you are thinking about it, I would highly recommend. I'm at the shop every day. If there's anything I can do to help you, please stop in and see me. And make sure you guys all have access. If there are business owners, make sure you have access to third-party vendors on your website. So people like to click and order. That's what the trend is right now.
And give us your website and how we can get some of your wonderful, delicious donuts.
It's countrystyledonut.com.
Okay. And how can we contact you, Sybil?
The best way is probably through Next Level Northwest or through Shubra if you're in the Hanover Park area.
Okay, awesome. And I want to encourage you, and Shubra is probably going to mention this, but I want to encourage you, utilize your chambers of commerce. They are one of your best friends in your community. So make sure you utilize your chambers of commerce, your economic development organizations like Shubra is there for you as well. So make sure that you utilize those great resources. So we're going to get ready for the next segment. And I think we start around 11 o'clock. So Shubra, tell us what you want us to do now.
Yeah, so I know we still have a couple minutes to start. Maybe we can line up our presenters and get going. Ellen, did you have anything else to add, or anybody else, any questions? Nan, I know chambers, but both our chambers offer a lot of resources as well. One thing that I would mention that may not have been mentioned yet is networking. And one easy way to get your name out is through networking. In addition to the chambers that host events, the village also does. These days, in-person networking may not be very feasible. However, people tend to do business with others that they know. And that is one way to add value to your business. The more they know about you, your story, your business, there is that comfort level that comes in. And the next time they need the services that you offer, they would likely tend to think of you before they think of your competitor. Another way, and I just heard this week as we attended a ribbon cutting for a brand new business. The more using promotional items, the more someone sees your name out there, the more they remember to use your service. So that's why many businesses actually give tchotchkes out. That's just one way to make your name stand out and be the first one that somebody recalls when they need your service. So again, marketing becomes really important. All right.
Absolutely. Okay. So that was a great tip, Subra, because we keep talking about pivoting and being creative and innovative. Well, those are the words that we have to use because that's what we have to do today in today's environment. So create those ways where you can market, where you can market virtually. Maybe host your own Facebook events with your friends, host a Zoom with people that you know, and tell them about your products or services. Let your family know, host a family event and say, hey, I got this new product coming up for the fall. Got these new holiday donuts. Want to try them? And then once you try them, can you push this out to your network that you have on Facebook and LinkedIn and let them know about my product or service? Free way, easy way, still networking, and you're still helping to grow and build your business. So thank you, Shubra, for that tip. So we're at the last segment for today, and I'm really, I've been excited about all the segments. I'm really excited about this one because these are my directors, and I say they're mine because Aisha and Abby, we worked together at the Women's Business Center, and they came in with me, and we have had some really, really fantastic moments and some good times. And we built some really strong relationships. And so I'm excited to introduce these ladies today, where they're going to be talking about where's the money, rapid response to stay afloat. So Abby is the director of access to capital for the WBC BDC. She was recently promoted. Yay, Abby, congratulations.
Thanks.
And so she's in charge of all of that money thing that we do at the Women's Business Center. Abby has been very, very busy lately because we've had several projects with the city of Chicago due to the COVID-19, their grant initiatives helping their small businesses to stay afloat. So Abby has been responsible for managing a lot of looking through those applications and going through and following up with those applicants and making sure they have the proper documentation and even approving those grants for hundreds, thousands of small businesses in the city of Chicago. So Abby, thank you for all of the hard work that you've been doing to help our small businesses throughout the Chicagoland area to stay afloat. Abby comes with a strong banking background. She managed and ran several banks. I'm just happy to know, I'm just very happy that we have her now and we were able to get her from that industry. Aisha McBurrows is the director of the Women's Business Center in Aurora. And Aisha also has a background in banking. And Aisha was the associate director when she came to the center under me. And so now she's the director, she's taken over my position. So I am so happy to introduce and bring you these two subject matter experts who's going to talk to you about the money. Aisha and Abby, welcome to this segment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Really
for having us, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Really quick, we also have, not to confuse everyone, but we also have Aisha Aarons on our call. She's going to help manage some of the questions on our chat with us. And we're just going to do a really quick presentation, Terry, so we can give you a small break here, maybe take a water break, bathroom break.
Yes.
For you, but we definitely want you to come back and moderate some questions for us.
Yes.
But here is our contact information, everyone, and we will definitely share that with everyone and Hanover Park as well, so they can get this dispersed. So really quick, Aisha, if you want to take it away.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide.
Sorry, if you have questions, go ahead and put those questions in the chat box so that we can see them in the Q&A section, and that way we can spot those. So.
All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. We're very excited to be here to talk about money with you all. And I was definitely taking notes with Sybil. I have become a master budgeter in my own personal finances, and so it's definitely something that businesses also need to incorporate in their daily business lives. Before we begin, because sometimes when we talk about money, right, and how to get it or the lack thereof, it causes some anxiety and stress, maybe. I don't know about for you all, but many people that I've worked with in the past and clients that I talk to now. So we're just going to take a moment to breathe. So let's everyone breathe in and then breathe out. Okay. So hopefully you guys are going to okay with doing that before we jump on into our presentation. All right. So how can we adapt to change? So we've been talking about this throughout the entire presentation, right? Our new buzzword, it's not new, but our highly used word pivot, right? So you may have had a plan A. And Abby and I actually did a workshop at the beginning of this year. And we were really interested in talking about the next decade. You know, kind of thinking about like, wow, we were in December of 2019. And we were like, wow, you know what? A whole decade has passed. How are we going to plan for the decade? So, not just plan for the next year, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, your business, right? And so it was so interesting that we had this business planning for like the decade for the future in January. And then we were all hit with this, craziness with COVID. And quickly, all the plans that you may have set up had to quickly become a plan B because, there were a lot of businesses that were just opening up their doors. There are some businesses who just signed contracts to do speaking events. We have clients who were in theater. We're going to do plays, professional plays, readings. Our restaurant businesses, you had some different things that you were thinking about. Some people had built patios, so they were very excited to be opening up in the spring and in the summertime. And so we always have to have a plan B, okay? Plan B, plan C, especially with nowadays. So we just want to make sure that you can definitely have your plan, but now as we've all learned, you want to make sure you have, a variety, not even as a variety, but a diverse plan. Okay. And so as you can see on the slide, when you're talking about vision, right? So a lot of people either do like New Year's resolutions or the popular term is vision boards, right? So you can do a vision board or a vision strategy for your business, or you should do one. And you don't want to think about it in just, well, what do I want to do for the whole year? And then we talked about the decade, right? But we even want to break that down when you're talking about your vision strategy. So looking at your 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days out as far as your revenue, expenses, things that you want to happen in the next 30, 60 days. We all learned when we were younger in school about SMART goals, making sure that they're specific and they're measurable, right? That you can attain those goals. So 30, 60 days out, then even 6 months. Okay, now you're looking at, if you're at the 6-month mark, you want to look back to see, have I accomplished those 30, 60, and 90-day goals? Okay, if not, this is a point in your business when you can take a step back, right? Someone also mentioned that a lot of times business owners will be so involved in working in the business, right? So like the donuts, and I've had a pleasure of tasting those delicious donuts when I was coming to the Hanover Park, the Village of Hanover Park's board meetings and things like that. So they're very, very good. But when you're at your 6-month mark, you got to look back and say, okay, well, how did I do? Did I meet my revenue goals? Okay. And then of course, planning for the year out. And then once you get to that year, you look back again and saying, okay, did I meet my 6 months goal? Where do I need to pivot? Do I need to lower expenses? You know, do we need to have any cutbacks? Do I need to hire additional staff to help me meet the goal? All right. So this is what you want to do throughout your business, is to set those mini goals, but then also set the mid and long-term goals for your business, so that you can check yourself and check your business along the way, instead of waiting until the end of the year, which Sybil mentioned. You can do that, right? But then it just takes longer for you to kind of regroup. And then, if you already made these mistakes or even didn't do the planning, it's fine. We're still in the beginning of fourth quarter. Do it now. Now is a great time to start planning for your business for the first quarter of the year, of the new year. So just remember to develop and align your short and long-term goals, and then turn them into action-based strategies that you can implement into your business and then get started. All right, so the next slide.
All right. Thank you, Aisha. So the next slide is one of the things that we wanted to bring up to everybody, because everyone is looking for access to grants, loans that are forgivable typically, et cetera. So what are the typical financial documents that are needed? And I think Sybil had touched on this a little bit earlier, right? Like, you want to be prepared as much as possible for these grants, and to turn in all of your information. So these are just some of the common things that we typically see. Again, as Terry was saying, we as the Access to Capital team at the WBDC have actually been reviewing quite a few applications as of late. And the things that we are commonly seeing that people kind of struggle through, which are basic things, if you are organized, are having your 2019 taxes. So a lot of people did file an extension. So if you did file a 2019 tax extension, if you don't have those 2019 taxes prepared for your business, you want to have that tax extension in place so that you can explain to whoever it is that you're applying to, oh, I just applied for an extension, right? And then along with that, having a P&L or income statement to go with that is another additional thing to have prepared, right? And it doesn't have to be that complicated. A P&L is basically just a way for a lot of the reviewers to see that you actually made some income within the 2019 year, because that's kind of what they're comparing, right? They want to know that you actually suffered a loss because of COVID, and if you can't prove it through your taxes, then a P&L is sufficient. And you can even put a spreadsheet together, or typically a lot of the business owners will have that relationship with their accountant and CPA, and they can pull that pretty quickly for you too. The other thing additionally that we see is the bank statements. People want to send screenshots and incomplete pages. So that's the other thing too with the taxes. You want to send all the pages of your taxes. You don't want to just send the front page. You want to send, and I get it, right? Like, a lot of the people's taxes are like, but this is 34 pages. That's okay. We want to see all 34 pages. So you want to definitely include all the pages of your 2019 taxes, all the pages of your bank statements. The bank statements are typically there so that the reviewer can verify the business address, or in fact that this is a real business, right? Because unfortunately, there is quite a bit of fraud going on out there because this is technically free, quote unquote, money. So these are different things that they're looking for to ensure that there's not fraud. The other thing I will always like to advise on is the business license. We want to make sure that your business license is, pretty current. I know that some of the offices were closed and they couldn't renew some of the business licenses, but the business license is going to be in place to show, again, that you are a real operating business. And where do you operate, right? So for instance, do you have a City of Chicago license? Do you have a Hanover Park license? We want to make sure that you as a business owner are doing all the right things, and we can prove where you are actually doing business. And in place of that too, if you're a professional, for instance, like a dentist or a licensed daycare professional as well too, those would suffice. So, as opposed to having like a municipal business license. And then business owner ID, it can be anything. It can be your passport, it can be your state ID. I'm a firm believer of having a state ID and a driver's license and a passport. And I have them all in different places just in case I lose one of them, right? Because, if I don't know how many of you have ever lost an ID before, but it's pretty hard to verify who you are, right? But yeah, having an ID is going to be super critical as well too. And then making sure that that's current. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, if it's a little bit expired, we'll kind of let that go, because I know I actually live by the Secretary of State office. And when I drop my son off at school every morning, there is a long line out there already starting at 7 a.m. So I get it. If it's a little expired, that's fine, but we don't want to see an ID that's been expired for over a year. The other thing that's pretty critical in terms of documentation is going to be your W-9. I know a lot of times when I ask for this information, the clients are like, well, we don't do a W-9. So just so everybody knows, everybody does a W-9, even if you are a sole prop, LLC, doesn't matter what entity you are. And then even as an individual, everybody has to do a W-9, because that's one way for the government to kind of track you, essentially. And two, it's a way for you to certify either the business's EIN or FEIN number, or if you're running as a sole prop, it certifies your social security number. And then in addition to that, a lot of these programs are not tax exempt. And so therefore, the government does need to know that you received this income via a grant. So those are just a few things that we're seeing are some common hiccups that a lot of people have, or challenges that people have when turning in documentation. So those are the basics for most applications. The next thing we just wanted to share as a whole, and again, we're going to share this PowerPoint with everybody, but this is a great time for everybody to kind of get creative. I think we mentioned that throughout the whole entire morning in terms of pivoting. This is just kind of like a nice little worksheet that we're going to share with you in terms of having some additional thoughts and ideas as to kind of how to pivot and change where you are and where you can put your business, change the trajectory of your business, essentially. So we'll share this with everyone. And then I loved Sybil's piece on cash flow, because that is also something that we definitely want to, point out, that cash flow is so much more important sometimes than, obviously trying to figure out if you're profitable, because if you can't pay your bills at the end of the month, then you're essentially not going to be running, right? Like that's what's going to keep your lights on, essentially, as we say. So managing your cash flow is super important. You want to know when your licenses are going to renew. How do your deposits, operate? Like when do you get like big peaks of income? How's your equipment? Do you foresee purchasing new equipment in the next few months? And, how do you typically purchase your inventory and supplies, right? That's all going to play a factor. And here's that bad word again that Sybil mentioned, budget, right? Like budget is so critical, but it all comes into play when you're managing the business. And, I always tell my clients when I sit down with them, well, not anymore because we're obviously on Zoom or phone, but, I always say, like, think about, your cash flow and your budgeting at least once a month, because that'll keep you on track. And if you have to adjust for any emergencies or projects that come up, you'll know ahead of time, right? And then the other thing that's great, and I'm going to show this sample spreadsheet that we like to share at the WBDC. This is our cash flow statement that we like to share in a lot of our classes. But again, let's remember this number at the bottom, we all want that number to be positive. And then at the end of the month, cash is not profit. those are two different concepts, as Sybil mentioned, probably. Oops, sorry. And then the other thing too is, just cash flow is just a basic formula, right? It's cash received minus the cash that you paid out, right? But this is kind of a nice little spreadsheet, again, that we share with our cohorts a lot of time in the programs that we offer, so that they can kind of get a handle. Like if you don't have anything right now, we can also share that with you too. It's also on our WBDC website. But again, your cash flow is going to tell you, are you going to run out of money? Cash flow can give you a history of how you've spent your money, but then you can also forecast for the next 12 months, right? This is kind of one of my favorite spreadsheets. So, and then the other thing that comes up right now too, that we're seeing financially is the PPP, right? Because you're kind of getting towards the end of your forgiveness period, or you've ended your 8-week period, or whatever the case is. Again, this is another place where good record keeping is going to be so key. You want to track and prove your spending. And that's the other idea too with all of these grants. If you have applied for a lot of these grants out there, you've probably been seeing this question on the applications, and it's a self-certification question typically, and it'll ask you, will you be spending these funds on things that you've already spent other grant money on, right? So this is where it's going to be really, really important for you to track and prove your spending, right? Like you can use one grant. I'll just give a really quick example. You can use one grant to pay, for instance, your payroll for the month of September, but then you might get some more money in, right, from another program. So you could use that grant money to pay your payroll in October, right? So then you're not spending on the same thing, right? But you are still utilizing it for the correct purposes. So that's the next bullet, right? Spend your PPP funds on the right thing. And just really quickly, just a reminder, you want to spend your PPP on payroll, and then all of the other additional qualifying expenses that you can use for PPP, which is your rent, utility payments, etc. So this is just a reminder, have everything in place. Payroll reports are going to be great. Payroll tax filings, Form 941 is going to be a great way for you to prove all of that information. And then any filings that you have with your state, the unemployment insurance, payroll, income, all of that stuff. And don't forget, you can still use that money for retirement and health insurance. So make sure you keep track of that information as well too. So other thoughts on this too is, I think Terry mentioned this earlier, and Aisha, our associate director, mentioned this, banking relationship, right? I feel like a lot of people, especially during the PPP application process, really started evaluating whether their bank was the right bank for them, right? So that's something you can think about right now too. Take a look at, here's some cost saving things, right? Like, is your bank charging you additional fees? Like maybe you need to go to a simpler format, right? You're not that complex of a business, but here you see these additional fees that are coming up. Take a look at your statements, everyone, evaluate that for yourself. And how organized were you through this whole entire pandemic? I think people definitely really woke up to that thought as to how organized they really were. And I'm sure some of them got a big wake-up call. And then from here, how do you create a financial platform, right? Like, we should always learn from our mistakes and from history. So what did you learn from all of this? And then how financially healthy was my business? So I think, again, this is like another one of those things that people have just realized, like, man, I wasn't really in the best position going into this pandemic. Maybe they didn't have enough reserves, or they thought they had reserves because, they didn't actually see it on paper and they weren't doing their cash flow. But once they actually sat down and evaluated their cash flow, they're like, wow, I'm really short. But yeah, these are the things that you kind of want to think about and your takeaways from this situation. And then, should I think about financing? So I think that's one question that a lot of people have been asking me is, with all of the grant money slowly running out, and, there's this pending second wave of approval going on in DC, right? Like, we're not really sure when that's going to happen or if it's even going to happen. You know, maybe what I have to do is think about some additional financing that is available out there, and not through grants and government programming. Like, they have to think about going back to their bank and doing like a traditional loan, which I have to tell everyone, because of everything that's going on, lending is going to have a new face in this new norm, right? It's not going to be the same underwriting standards. The banks will most likely be stricter. In fact, for those of you that already have a line of credit out there, you might see some of those lines of credit being reduced because of the fact that you know, banks don't want you to over leverage yourself. So that's something you want to keep in mind as well too. So just something to think about. And Aisha, I know you've got a boogie pretty soon. Did you want to add anything to all of this?
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. No, I think that, you know, again, we talked about it. I think it's just a planning and making sure that you sit down with a financial professional. It was mentioned before, you know, making sure you hire an accountant, hire, you know, an accountant, CPA, or a certified tax planner, a business or corporate attorney. And a lot of times, you know, businesses will say, well, I don't have that in the budget. But then when you get in trouble or there's a problem, if you would have, you know, kind of allocated funds toward that, then you may not, you know, be in the situation that you're in. So once you reach out to service resources, organizations like, you know, the Women's Business Development Center, the SBDC, other organizations and groups that are, you know, giving you some resources and tools, the banks that are on, the banks that have hosted this event and that have been mentioned, make sure you partner with a financial professional. You know, don't try to go and this is not a DIY. You know, this is not the DIY. I think you can definitely DIY marketing. Of course, I think, you know, at some point need to hire a professional. But when it comes to your finances and money, if you have not been trained in that area, don't DIY that, because there are so many people. So DIY, do it yourself. There are so many people who we have found that have missed out on grant opportunities, on these low interest loan opportunities because they were not prepared. We have been working on a grant team where, I've only been a small part. So I give kudos to Abby and Aisha and her team for working in this group. So they're approving grants, you know, on a grant team approving grants for the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And when I was on that group for a short time, it just hurt my heart to have to pass the people up who I could clearly see that their bank account said negative, right? They were having a major cash flow issue because they had to close their doors. And it was mostly because they did not have the proper paperwork in order. Their business licenses were expired, not just for, you know, a short period of time, but a year or so. They didn't have their taxes done. They didn't have, you know, their personal account separate from their business account, you know, so they didn't have a business banking account, and funds are all commingled. And so you know, it really did. I mean, I felt good for the people that I could say, oh yes, you know, this person can, you know, could get approved. And this wasn't a loan, these are grants. So my advice is just please to be financially prepared in your business and in your personal finances, because this hit a lot of people from left field. We had no idea that something like this would be happening. So if you didn't do it before, we can't hang out and harp on like what shoulda, coulda, woulda. But now that we have the information so that we can prepare ourselves for what's to come in the next decade, we have no idea, right? So just be prepared and get with a professional, work with an organization that can give you resources that, you know, we are recommending. Like, so we have had clients work with these financial professionals. They've had, you know, some good experiences. So we definitely want to make sure we're referring you to the right individual. So that's all I have.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Aisha. That was some great advice, and it's so true, everybody. We've been reviewing so many applications, and quite literally, as we're going through them, we'll see, oh my gosh, this person has almost a perfect package, and then one thing is off, and you're just like, gosh darn it, like they were so close. So being organized, I really, really feel like is going to be one big takeaway from this. And a couple other things that we just want to share is there are a few different things that are still available out there, but one of the things I do want to share, one of the programs that I do want to share that's still current, is the Illinois Business Interruption Grant Program, also known as BEG. And this is just a little information about it, but we, pardon me, we are currently reviewing these applications right now. The application deadline is still in the future, meaning you can apply for this right now. So this is the round two. Round two is another $220 million that's going out into the state. And the first round that went out, it was businesses like restaurants and salons and et cetera. The second round that's going out, they really, really wanted to make sure that the money was getting out there to some of the other industries. And so this really quick is the rundown of the required documentation. So if you're a non-heavily impacted industry, this is what we're going to require. Again, pretty similar to what I just went over. And then, pardon me, if you are a heavily impacted industry, these are the things that you want to submit for the application. Again, you see the tax returns, the W-9s, the business owner ID. The only thing that's different is going to be this rent. Do this really quick. Is this rent mortgage piece here, utilities, because they're going to evaluate how impacted you are, what level of impact you're at with this. So Aisha, do you have anything to add to that I missed?
No, on this one, no. But yeah, just making sure you have all your documents in order. That W-9 has to be signed from 2020. I know that a lot of people have been
Thank you.
giving outdated W-9s from, 2017, 2018.
Right, those will not be accepted, just so you know. Yeah, thanks for that reminder. And the other thing too is reach out to our organization. Like if you want to apply for this, but you're still kind of not sure as to what your loan pack or your application package should look like, you're more than welcome to reach out to the WBDC and let us know, what kind of help that you need, or if you just kind of want us to look at what you have. That way, that once you submit it, you're pretty much solid, and your application will pass. So the other thing I wanted to kind of show too is the other site to kind of check out is the Illinois State Treasurer. They also have some programs that are out there and available for a lot of businesses, so something to take a look at. And then I'm gonna have I might need Shuber, your help on this one a little bit, sorry, but this is the Village of Hanover Parks Small Business COVID Assistance Program. That is still ongoing. Is that correct, Shubra? Oh, you're on mute.
I just realized. Yes, we do have a small business assistance program that is currently still being offered till the end of the year. And through that, we had a multi-pronged approach where we were handing out sandwich board signs to let your customers know that you were open, banners, and then also helping create an online presence, a website. So, and the village was paying for all of these so that it was free of cost to our businesses. So hopefully our Hanover businesses that are online have taken advantage of it, and we can certainly answer any more questions, but all of that information is available online. If you have a great resource page, I added links to it in the chat box as well. If you could go to our resource page, we have a fantastic list of resources, all kinds, including free seminars and webinars and grants and loans and regulations that are constantly changing these days. There's links to everything in there that we thought would help our businesses. Thank you
Wonderful.
for picking that up.
Thanks, Shubhra, for sharing that. You know, I think everyone has pretty much voiced this advice throughout the whole entire morning, but definitely reach out to your local chambers, your local WBDCs, BDCs, however their acronyms are. But there's so many organizations right now that are out there that really, really want to help our small business owners, because they are passionate about this, right? They want to help our small business owners keep their lights on and not have to close their doors. So definitely reach out. And then just if anyone is interested, the WBDC also does have some loans that we offer. So if you're interested, definitely make an appointment. You can go to our website, wbdc.org, and make an appointment with the lovely A's at the WBDC, Aisha, myself, and Terry. And the only other thing I just want to mention is, because of what's going on, you definitely want to just be super careful about people that are perhaps reaching out to you. Sometimes they could be predatory lenders, and therefore their interest rates are going to be rather high, or their programs are going to be, you know, they're going to take a huge cut of your revenue. So definitely be careful of those things. Always read your truth in lending documentation, terms and conditions of the loans, or any kind of things that you're signing up for. So just want to kind of put that out there. And just a couple things. I think we've all kind of summarized this and that throughout the morning. Let your clients know you're still open. I think sometimes people don't realize what businesses are still open. Add a website banner to your pop-up website, update your contact forms, update hours and posts. You always want to do that. I know for myself, I have a favorite place that I get ramen at, and I'm always like, oh man, are they open today? So I'm always checking their website for that. Share content on social media. You know, try writing a blog if you haven't done it before, right? This is one of those pivoting actions that you can kind of give a try. And then look for relevant groups to join. Again, there's so many networking opportunities, just like Shubhra mentioned, that you can join. You know, if you've got a little extra time now because of COVID, I would take a look at that, share your videos, be present, and then just show to that you as a business owner are also caring for your clientele and your contact list and whoever you serve as a business. So Terry, do we have questions for, it looks like it might just be.
See, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna see if anything is in the chat, but Abby, you and Aisha gave a lot of great information. And I want to go back a little bit to, and I'm glad you stood here and you spent some time on the documentation, and Aisha really stressed during the PPP and all of the grants, even now with money being available for small businesses. And I know I said this before, but I can't stress this enough. Having the proper documentation is where businesses were not prepared. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of them are not going to be able to sustain their business, because they were not able to get that funding because they didn't have all of their structure in place. So there's a few other terms I'm going to throw out here, and they're acronyms. NAICS, that is your NAICS code. It's the North American Industry Classification System. It is your business identifier. It identifies you by the type of industry that you're in. My business is professional services. What we do is provide business strategies that provide exceptional solutions for customers and improve their customer service. So My business is considered a professional service business. So my NAICS code is tied to professional services. So when you're going to get grants or apply for grants, that is a biggie, especially from the grant world. That is a biggie if you are applying and you want to become certified. So you can do business with the government, so you can do business locally with your state, so you can do business with large corporations. So you definitely need that identified. GATA is another one, and I'm not going to stay here too long, but GATA, you need to understand GATA. That is the grant system. You need to understand what DUNS is. You need a DUNS number, and that's Duns and Bradstreet, and that identifies that your business actually has a physical location. And then the last one, you need to be registered in SAM.gov. So those are just a few points that I wanted to hit on, because what we found, Aisha, Abby, and I found, and I'm sure the other folks that have been working with small businesses throughout this pandemic, a lot of the small business did not have this information and they were not prepared. So those are just a few things that I wanted to highlight, in addition to all of the things that Abby covered that you need in order to make sure that you can take advantage of these funding and funding opportunities. So I'm going to see if there's anything in the chat right now. Subra, do you have any questions?
I don't see any other questions, but just wanted to read it. There are still some grants that have funding available. For example, the BIG grant, the Business Interruption Grant, they still have some money, I think. The PPP, they simplified it so that if we were asking for, say, less than 50,000, you could still apply. Any others that you can think of? Anyone else on the panel that may still be available, but there are still opportunities out there. So I would still encourage businesses to watch out, go to our webpage as well. We do have a separate page just for financial resources. And I'm sure, you know, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce or WBDC and others, banks too, may also have on their pages a list of grants that businesses could still apply for.
And even with the counties have grants as well. Kane County, DuPage County, check their websites because there are opportunities with them. Some other, from a national standpoint, you want to Bill and Melinda Gates. There's other large corporations that do have grant opportunities that you may want to look at. And when you have all of your ducks in a row, you have all of your structure, your paperwork, then you can go and look and take advantage of a lot of different grants that are available. Because once you get that structure, you get that, you know, all of your financials and everything in a row, you can just go to different grants and look for those opportunities because you have everything now. You know, you feel good that you have a good foundation. You feel good that I know my business, I understand my business. And when they call me and they want to meet with me to understand why I need this grant money, I've done all of those things. So now I can sit down and have a conversation and I can explain and talk to whoever the funder is about my business and help them to understand why this money is important to me and what it's going to do for me to grow and to be able to help others. Okay, so for Abby and Aisha, Abby is still here, I think. So Abby, you talked a little bit about funding that we have through the Women's Business Center. And we do talk a little bit about how we provide a different type of lending than most institutions, Abby, so that, you know, the attendees will know that there are other options outside of traditional lending.
Okay, so really quick too, I know Ellen wants us to mention our brand new WBDC podcast series that was just launched a few weeks ago. Everybody come and listen to it. It's really fantastic. Our first guest was Senator Tammy Duckworth, and you know, she was pretty amazing on there. So please come and listen to that. I think the next topic after, or the next week after that was about breaking the glass ceiling. So that also wonderful, wonderful episode. So yeah, so in terms of our direct lending program, so WBDC does do our own micro lending program, meaning we do smaller loans to businesses under 50,000. And let me, well, I can share this with everybody later, but yeah, so our loan program is under 50,000, and that's for established businesses. And for most businesses that are, I'm sorry, most businesses are considered established when they are at least 2+ years of solid revenue, right? So anything under that, you're going to be considered a startup, right? And then for startups, it's going to be 25,000. But we're there to help small business owners that perhaps, you know, are still fairly new, because most traditional banks will not lend to startups. They want to see the established business owners. That's kind of a better portfolio for them to hold on to, because they know that they've got history and they've got revenue. And for the most part, you know, minus the COVID pandemic, you know, their business is stable after 2 years, right? So for us, we still lend under 2 years, and we don't use the typical criteria that most banks use. I mean, we still pull your credit, we still require collateral, but we really want to take a look at a person's global cash flow in order to determine whether or not that business is a good business for us to give a loan to. And what I mean by global cash flow is that it's both the personal income of the business owner and all business owners, plus the business itself, right? So if you're a startup, but you're still keeping your full-time job to kind of underwrite or support your small business, that's a perfect scenario for us, right? Because you still have a solid income, and yet you're still earning revenue through the business, right? So that's showing good cash flow and your capacity to pay the loan back. So I hope that answers your questions. If you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to the WBDC and schedule an appointment with Aisha and myself and any one of our Access to Capital team members.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions in the chat. So I'm going to turn it back over to, I'm going to give Abby an opportunity to any last minute thoughts that she wants to share. But before I leave, I want to thank the Village of Hanover Park for having me as the host for the 3 sessions today. This has been fun. It went very quick. And I hope that our audience and participants receive some tools and resources that will be able to help them continue to be successful, to thrive, and to grow in their business. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at TESLEADERS1@gmail.com. Again, my website is www.strategicexceptions.com. My business is Strategic Exceptions Professional Consulting Incorporated. We have a show called Terry Talks Tea. We host the show every other week. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a Facebook Live show, and we bring resources that will help you with your professional and your business. Yesterday, we had a copyright and trademark attorney on, and there was a lot of information shared. Did you know that if someone else make your logo, you really don't own that logo until you get it copyrighted? Whoever created the logo actually owns the logo. So that's something you may want to think about when you're creating your intellectual property, you're creating your designs and all of those other creative things that you do. You may want to think about how you protect that as well. So again, thank you so much for having me today. And Abby, if you have any closing comments you want to add, otherwise, everybody have a wonderful day. Be safe, and don't forget that we're all in this together, and create a plan if you don't have one.
I would like to take just a minute to thank all of our panelists and also our sponsors. Terry, thank you so much for coordinating the Q&A for all of the 3 sessions, WBDC, all of our panelists, Sybil, Manan, Abby, both Aishas, Lynn, Sarah. Sorry if I'm missing someone. And also, of course, our sponsors, both of the banks, the First Eagle, as well as Hanover Park Community Bank, Wintrust, both chambers, the Bartlett Area Chamber and the Northwest Hispanic Chamber. Thank you, Mayor Craig, for welcoming this session. We will be posting a recording of this online. One thing that I would really appreciate is also some feedback from our attendees. What would you like to see done different, if anything at all? What did you enjoy most? And what are some things that we could change moving forward? Please contact and let us know. Truly appreciate everybody joining in and staying on for the entire length of time. Appreciate it. Hopefully everybody found it helpful. Well, before we go, one thing I would like to say is, even though you saw me as the face of the village today, please know that our team here, Ellen, tireless amount of work that went in coordinating this event. Kathy, same thing, putting the program together, reaching out. Alex for putting stuff on our website. The village team is here to help all of our businesses. And I would give a shout out to my team members here as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in too.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.